Let's get right into it, guys, because I am so excited. As you can see, we are here on the Fastidious test server, and the title of the video, the thumbnail, it is not a joke, it is not a drill. We are getting our first ever epic Arbiter hero, and it is a Lord. The Epic Lord over here. The image is not yet loaded into the game, but we are here officially on the test server, and it's either Elysia or Elysia. Let me know in the comments. Do a 1 if you think it's Elysia, do a 2 if you think it's Elysia, and that is the name, the pronunciation I will go with. Unfortunately, no picture, but if we go back over here, sorry for all these little pop-up windows, you will see she's some kind of like royal, regal, elven-looking lady. She looks kind of cool. She's got a nice little headdress. You can see she is grayed out, blacked out, faded out, whatever you want to call it. That is because I don't yet have her. I mean, the image in her gallery is not even yet loaded. However, the full kit is here, and we are going to break that down. She very much is baby Praetus. She has a full Arbiter Lord skill with the instances of true damage, Verdict of Truth 1, Verdict of Truth 2, Final Verdict. There is no final line with the sacred blessing that Praetus gives, but obviously she is not Praetus. She doesn't get this final line. She's only the epic version. But Elysia or Elysia is phenomenal. She's got a very interesting kit. She is a fighter with, you can see at max promotion, that standard Zealatu, Arrogance, Apsin, Araka range. She has very high base attack for an epic hero, particularly an epic hero dealing magic damage. There is a lot to break down. It is a very unique kit. I will tell you, she has very, very powerful awakenings, and you are going to want to start stocking up your soul stones now. She's obviously going to be an ancient exclusive epic lord, as are all the new epic lords, but on top of that, she's also an arbiter, so I wouldn't be surprised if they make her extra rare. I do predict they will release her in a shard summoning event, though I do not have confirmation. I think it is very likely she will be within our next 2 shard summoning events. That is just my prediction, but we have heard, little bits and tidbits and pieces of news from the devs that there was an epic arbiter lord coming. They usually mention that stuff because they're going to be accessible either on a rate-up banner or some kind of fusion event. Maybe it's going to be a traditional fusion like Crowdor, where you get a bunch of rares and then you make epics and then you get her. But oh wait, doesn't make sense. She's an epic. I think very likely it will be a shard collection. I wouldn't be surprised if they make it a little harder than the old epic ones because she's pretty special. She is very powerful. I've spent the past 20 minutes or so really going over this kit. But to go back to the awakenings, you will want her A5, and it's going to be very hard to get multiple copies. So I would say start stockpiling those epic soul stones now, because yes, I know she's only an epic, but because she is now the second lord of the most powerful, the most rare faction in the game, she is going to unlock a lot of things for a lot of people, because on top of being the leader, besides Praetus, but one of the leaders of the Supreme Arbiters, she's got a great kit. It is really potent, and wouldn't you believe it, there's a lot of true damage in it, which is kind of the name of the game nowadays when it comes to the endgame content they keep putting out. Let's break down this lady, this brand new epic Arbiter Lord. There is so much to discuss, so let's get into it. And guys, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. At the time of filming this, we are 519 subscribers away from 20,000. So subscribe, thank you very much.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
Okay, very interesting thing right off the bat. As you can see, she is single faction. Why do I say that is interesting? Well, if we look at Gon and Valderon and Praetus, the lords, the legendary lords of our 2 ancient exclusive factions, right? They are all single faction. However, Vladov, the epic lord from the Chaos Order, is dual faction. He is chaotic, and he is in the Nightmare Council. So my guess originally would have been she would be like Arbiter Watcher or Arbiter Piercer or something like that. However, she is remaining single faction. So unfortunately, you're kind of never going to use her unless you have an Arbiter comp around her. The kit is strong enough, even though she is an epic, that she'll be viable without a full 5 Arbiter faction team. You don't need that full comp. Her, a Constance, and a Valkyria would be able to accomplish a lot in this game. So let's get into it right now. I went over the range. It only looks like this because they don't show it at max promotion, but if you look, it is that kind of hammer range, the arrogance range as I like to call it, the 3x2 with 2 additional extension tiles down the middle. She's a fighter, she deals magic damage, pretty unique here, and I wanted to show you as a source of comparison, she has 4,325 base attack. The HP is pretty low, the defense is pretty high, the magic resistance is just above average. She's a little expensive, not a full 25 cost Praetus, but 23 ain't cheap. Traditional 2.6 second interval, everything else really, really normal. I will say the rage regen auto is quite high, so this is how much she generates rage passively, just every second. She gets 14 points of rage cost towards using her ultimate, and actually her rage regen basic attack is slightly low. You'd normally expect these numbers to both be around 10, so a little high on the passive generation automatically, a little low on the active generation scaling off of her basic attacks, and then that is what rage regen percentage scales off of. But focusing in on that 4,300 plus number for her base attack, if we look at someone right next to her like Valkyra, this is another Arbiter magic damage dealing fighter, pretty comparable base attack, 4,270. Actually, Elysia or Elysia is higher. So it's really, she's no slouch. She's not at the levels of Praetus or Alistair, who are single target, even though in Praetus's case, it's kind of AoE as well, multi-target, he can do everything. But you know, those single target mages, those legendaries, you'll see them at like 51, 5,200. Ingrid is insane, like 6,300 base attack. But typically for magic DPS, over 4,000 is very solid, and that's what we're used to with fighters. Just to give you one more example, let's go to Zealatu over here. She's one of the stronger ones. She's only at 4,636. So Elysia or Elysia, I'm just going to call her Elysia from now on, unless you guys tell me to change it, just because I don't want to say both names. She's not that far off from Zealatu. So very, very nice stats. Unfortunately, the HP is low. Fortunately, though, the defense is high. That sets a baseline. Let's talk about the talent. She's got a lot of interesting things here, and they're kind of similar to Praetus. You will see me in this video going back and forth to Praetus a lot because she's baby Praetus. They clearly modeled her entire kit after him, and in a lot of ways, she's just like 70% as good Praetus and with epic stats instead of legendary stats in certain places. So the talent, basic attacks by default restore 2% rage. This explains the low rage regen based off of the basic attack stat at only 8 because she's getting 2% per hit. For comparison, Awaken level 1 Praetus gets 3% per hit. So at A0, she's already getting 2/3 of what he can do at A1. Then the next line, every ultimate unleashed permanently increases damage by 10%. This includes true damage, and you can stack that up to 3 times. So once you have 3 ults triggered, she will permanently have her damage, including true damage, increased by 30%. Let's go and compare to Praetus right now. If we look at his talent, he also can stack increase in damage as well as true damage, and also can grow his max HP. That, however, is contingent upon casting the ultimate like she can, or eliminating an enemy. So hers is obviously a little worse. In this case, it's like 60% as good as his, 30% as opposed to 50% with the final permanent boost. And she can't get the max HP, and she can only do it by casting the ults, not by eliminating enemies. We're gonna be back to Praetus in a sec. Over to Elysia. Let's go into the basic skill. Very typical, but there is a key thing to note here, right? She can hit airborne units. You do love to see that. There are only so many fighters in the game that can hit flyers, that can hit airborne units. She's going to be a great option for that. You can see this is going to have that full Arrogance Zealatu range, and at max skill ups, it goes to 110% magic damage. The ultimate now, Thunder's Bind. This fills out her range into a 3x4 rectangle. Again, really typical of fighters with this range. She casts 1 lightning orb, we'll get back to that in just 1 second, at the enemies. After that, basic attacks will additionally deal 40% true damage based off of the hero's attack. This goes up to 60% with max skill ups. The duration of this is 12 seconds all the way up to 16, identical to Praetus's ult at max skill ups, and the cost goes down to 900. A lot of parallels to Praetus there. So what is a lightning orb? This is a very interesting thing. It is an orb she casts, she attacks the enemies, and then it can bounce to her and all nearby enemies. So it'll be bouncing all around. It's really important. Remember this for when we go into the awakenings. It's important to note that it can come back and bounce off of her. There will be randomness to this, because it's the target enemy, nearby enemies, and then Elysia herself that it can bounce off of. However, that randomness is eliminated if she's attacking a singular target. If there's only one target in range, there's nothing else nearby, aka fighting a boss, it's just going to keep popping back and forth between the target, the boss target, or the only target out there, and Elysia herself. So every time it bounces, it deals 200% damage and inflicts 1 stack of Radiant Erosion upon the enemy hit. So it's doing that just to the enemies, decent amount of damage, but the key thing is stacking that Radiant Erosion. Radiant Erosion is a damage over time effect that deals true damage to the target based off of its defense. So very, very nice. True damage does not have to do with her own stats. So really you will build her the way you build Praetus typically. The first and second and third most important thing, so on, is getting her attack up to the moon. Let's go to Praetus' ult very, very quickly just for the source of comparison. You can see this is cheaper. He can spam it a lot more quickly. It does last the 16 seconds at full skill ups, like I said, but it's only 700 costs. There is the trade-off, though, that at only a 0, she's already able to get the 2% extra rage per basic attack hit. So as you can see, it's very key that you build Elysia with a ton of attack and then a ton of attack speed. Things like crit damage, that will be very much an afterthought and for more advanced builds. At the beginning, especially if you get her in a progression kind of setting, it's just attack to the moon and then get her going as quickly as possible so we can start spamming this ult. First passive, we've got Divine Might. This is very nice. So if you didn't think this attack was high enough, over the course of the battle, she can ramp up her attack, which will lead to some pretty nice damage escalation. So if we go here, she increases her attack by 18% during the ultimate. This goes all the way up to 30% with max skill ups. She's an epic hero, max skiller. There's no reason not to. And like I said, start saving those epic awakening soul stones right now. This boost, this 30% attack boost at max skill ups, will become permanent after the 3rd time triggering the ultimate. So that's very significant. This is a post-deployment attack boost. It is a major, major increase. This will allow to huge quantities of true damage, and in longer fights like a Guild Boss 2 or, any long PvE content, even potentially some really long arena battles, she will get extremely strong once you're a little ways into the battle. I'd say typically, maybe you'd expect it to take between 1.5 minutes and 2.5 minutes, depending on other sources of rage cycling in your comp, to get 3 of these ults off. That's pretty good, to really max her out. And already that's the end of the kit. We've got the Lord skill now to talk about, and we have got the Arena Mastery. Every Arbiter and Chaotic unit has an Arena Mastery. Hers is very simple, increases damage in Arena by 15%. This is the same as like Ingrid. I kind of wish she had a reduced cost. She will still work for a lot of people. You can run her with Cyrene, get that early cost generation, make that 23 cost not feel as expensive, and this will lead to a lot of damage. For people that aren't yet in Overlord and above, she's going to help you get there if you do have a nice group of Arbiters to position around her. I don't know if she's going to carry you very deep into that, though, and certainly not all the way to the Promised Land to Apex. If we look at the Lord's skill now, Supreme Divinity 2, so Praetus has Supreme Divinity 3. Like all epic lords, she's missing the final sentence that the legendary lord counterparts get, so she does not put out Sacred Blessing. aka when you hit the Praetus, or now Elysia button, that lightning hammer button, you're not going to get those 8 seconds of increased 50% damage for all the other Arbiters. However, you do get these amazing verdicts and getting to cast the lightning button using her Lightning of Truth ability. So how does this work? You build Divinity every 15 seconds with a cap of 3, exactly the same as Praetus, and then you can choose when you consume those divinities. So do you have 1 stack, 2 stack, or 3? If it's 1 stack, you'll do Verdict of Truth 1. If it is 2, you'll do Verdict of Truth 2. And then finally, if you get the maximum 3 and it's all maxed out, just like with Praetus, you will do Final Verdict. However, if you already started looking at the true damage percentages based off of her attack, again, it's scaling off of her attack, another reason to get her attack super high, just like Praetus, these multipliers are 70% as potent as Praetus. So for Praetus, if you do Verdict of Truth 1, it's 100% of the Lord's attack to 2 random enemies 2 times. For her, it's only 70%. If you do Verdict of Truth 2, for Praetus, this is 150% of the Lord's attack to random enemies 3 times. For her, it is 105%. That is 70% of 150. And then finally, if you get the max 3 stacks of Divinity, Praetus is doing 200% true damage based off of his attack to random enemies 4 times and inflicting the stun. By the way, Verdict of Truth 2 also had the stun. But if we look over here, she's doing 140%. So there again, her damage multipliers have 70% the potency of Praetus's. It's still really significant, but it isn't as strong. It's 70% as strong, but even more so, it's a little worse still because you're not going to be able to build as much attack on her as you can on Praetus. Praetus ramps up his attack in a big way on the ultimate. She does it over time with her Divine Might. She's clearly not going to be as good as him, but Praetus has a very, very strong argument, and an argument I would make to be the best hero in the game. So the fact that this epic hero can even be compared to him is pretty exciting. Finally, let's wrap this up with Awakenings. You are going to want all of these. At Awaken level 1, when she casts her Lightning Orb and it hits the hero, aka it comes back and hits her, the next Lightning Orb is going to double the damage. So instead of the 200% damage, it will be 400%. That is twice as good. And instead of inflicting 1 stack of Radiant Erosion, it will inflict 2. This is going to allow you to max out these stacks of Radiant Erosion, which cap out at 3 on your enemies very, very quickly. For boss content, this is really key because it's just going to pop back and forth between her and the boss. So basically, you're guaranteed 5 hits on the boss because it will go boss her, boss her, boss her. And then the first hit obviously will not have hit her, so you won't get the 2 stacks of Radiant Erosion and you won't get the doubled damage. However, the next 4 hits, you will get that. So it'll be 200%, 1 stack of Radiant Erosion, then it comes back and hits her. Then the next hit will be 400% with 2 stacks of Radiant Erosion. Now it is maxed out at the 3 stacks, and that will go back and forth. The next 3 hits will do the 400% damage per hit, and you will maintain those 3 stacks of Radiant Erosion, which will then continue until they tick out after her ult ends. The Awaken level 2 here, she increases her attack by plus 200. Of course, we wish it was more, but she is an epic, so we'll take it. At A3, this is very, very cool and allows her to sustain, and potentially for Guild Boss 2, when you need to dispel debuffs, it allows her to be a good hero that's outside of Elwyn range or mid-on range or Nasandai range, Dasami, so on, right? Because now when the Lightning Orb comes back and hits her, she heals herself, which is nice because she has low HP, and it will dispel all the debuffs from the heroes. So during that pesky poison phase, now she has dealt with it herself. She actually has some self-cleansing. I'm pretty sure she's the only hero in the game, correct me if I'm wrong, that does self-cleansing and is not a healer. We have healers that can cleanse other people, that can dispel debuffs from them. However, she's now dispelling debuffs from herself. The A4, very simple, increasing her base attack speed by 25, so from 100 to 125. It's solid. This is something we see sometimes. Heroes like Vladov, Vargas, Idril, heroes like that. It's nice. Like I said, you want to get a lot of basic attacks because you want to generate more rage, which again, she can do extra from her talent. But finally, the A5, it speaks for itself. Instead of casting 10 lightning orbs, it is now 16. Boom. I mean, this is so good, right? Now you are getting, because of course you've already unlocked the A1, you're getting that first initial hit against a boss, then it will go back and forth for the 16, so you had the initial hit, then her, 14 hits remain, you're gonna get 7 more hits out on the boss, 400% damage per hit, and constant radiant erosion being max stacked out, capped out at that really juicy thing. Huge damage, huge true damage. You are gonna want her A5 to make her sing and really see that damage scale and compete with some of your legendary heroes. Elysia is going to be so exciting for so many accounts. I'm sorry the graphic is not yet here on test server, but I wanted to get you guys this information because this is something I've been looking forward to for a very long time. I thought there was a good chance they maybe would never do it, but she is here. She's an epic Arbiter Lord. This girl is baby Praetus. I'm excited. Let me know in the comments if you guys are excited too, if you have any more questions about her. You also may ask below. We are approaching 20,000 subscribers, so if you've made it to the end of the video and you like my content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, all notifications. Give the video a big thumbs up. Share it with your mother. I have been Fastidious. This was baby Praetus. See you guys real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.